is Nicholas Grant, and if you can still hear this, you're tuned to 103.7 FM. I don't know how long the signal will hold. The backup generator outside the booth has been coughing for the past hour, and the smell of diesel is starting to leak in through the cracks in the door. The air in here is cold. The heat died 2 nights ago, and the metal desk feels like ice when my hands touch it. It's just past 4 in the morning, I think. Hard to be sure anymore. My watch keeps freezing and jumping ahead by minutes, sometimes hours, like it can't decide what time it wants to be. The clock on the wall stopped 3 days ago at 2:19, right when everything else stopped. I keep it there, because some part of me wants to remember the exact moment the world came apart. Outside the window, the sky is dark. Not just because it's night. It's darker than it should be. There's no glow from the city, no hum from the street lamps, no shine from the harbor. Just emptiness, like the whole coastline is holding its breath. I'm sitting in a station that used to be full of noise, full of people moving between rooms, asking for weather updates or sports scores or music cues. Now it's just me and the soft buzz of the old transmitter that I keep begging to stay alive. It's running off a set of rewired car batteries and whatever charge I can pull from a small wind propeller someone dragged up here last week. Every time the wind dies, the signal drops for a second, and I feel it in my chest like a punch. I'm talking to whoever is left out there, whoever still has a working radio, whoever hasn't left the coast or hasn't been swallowed by the water that keeps pushing inland. I don't know how far the damage goes. The last message I got from the National Emergency Service was short and full of static. Something about a shutdown, a failure spreading across the grid, a warning to move to high ground. But then the line cut, and it never came back. Drop a comment. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It didn't start all at once. That's the part people keep forgetting when they talk about disasters. They think it's sudden, like a single flash or a single sound. But I remember the first little signs. Portland had been dealing with strange tides for weeks. Water levels rising and falling in ways that made no sense. Boats scraping against the docks at odd angles. The fishing crews complaining about strange readings on their sonar, like something was messing with the signal. I talked to a few of them on air, and they joked about ghosts in the water, like maybe the ocean was tired of us and wanted its space back. We laughed about it then. I even said something about how the sea always wins in the end. I didn't know how right I was, or how quickly that joke would turn into something we'd wish we could take back. The day everything shifted, the air felt wrong. Heavy, warm, like the pressure dropped at the same time the temperature went up. I was on the roof trying to adjust the old antenna because our signal kept fading. The sky was clear, but there was this tremor that rolled under my feet. Not an earthquake, more like a deep vibration, so low you feel it in your bones instead of hearing it. I remember looking out toward the harbor and seeing the water swirl in slow circles, pulling back farther than normal, exposing muddy sand and old metal beams that hadn't seen daylight in years. People stopped on the sidewalks just to stare. Some took out their phones to record it, but the videos wouldn't save. Screens glitched, froze, then shut off. Mine too. That was the first electronic hit. Small, but real. Then came the sound. A long, low hum that built and built until even the gulls stopped calling. It wasn't from the sky, and it wasn't from the sea. It was everything, vibrating at once. Windows rattled, the antenna swayed. The lights inside the station flickered so fast that the hallway looked like a broken film reel. I rushed downstairs and tried calling the Coast Guard office, but the line didn't connect. I tried calling my brother in Bangor, nothing. The phones weren't dead yet. They just wouldn't work. Like something bigger was blocking everything at once. When the power finally went out across the city, it wasn't like normal outages. Usually you hear a click, a thud, something mechanical giving up. But this time, it was just silence. The whole city went dark in one breath. Cars on the street stopped. Not slowed, not sputtered, stopped. Every engine shut off like someone flipped a switch in the sky. I heard a crash from outside when two trucks hit each other because both lost power at the same time. People were yelling, some were running, others just stood there staring at their useless phones. I tried to call for updates, but nothing reached. No TV, no weather reports, no national broadcasts. It was like the country fell asleep all at once. I had a friend, a retired engineer named Martin, who used to work with coastal sensors along the Northeast. He came into the station right before the main surge hit, out of breath, shaking, holding a folder full of maps and printouts. He told me the sensors were behaving like they were underwater, even though most were still above sea level. Said the magnetic readings had spiked off the scale. I remember him pointing to the harbor and saying, "It's not the water rising fast, it's the ground falling slow." I didn't understand what he meant at the time. Maybe he didn't either. Maybe he was scared and trying to make sense of something none of us had words for. The night the coast gave way, I was on air, trying to calm people. I kept saying things like, "Help is coming, stay off the roads, stay inside, stay calm." But I could hear the fear through the walls, people screaming in the streets, the generators downtown blowing out one by one. And then I heard it, the crash, the huge hollow slam of something hitting the waterfront. When I looked out the window, I saw the first wave push through Commercial Street, rolling slow and wide, not tall like a movie wave, but heavy, thick, swallowing cars and storefronts like they were made of paper. It wasn't even a real wave. More like the whole ocean moved forward a few feet and decided it wanted to stay. I didn't leave the station. I should have, but I didn't. I kept talking because my voice was the only thing I could offer. People kept saying radio was dying before all this, but it's funny how the old things stay alive when the new things break. Phones died, screens went blank, but these old wires, this old transmitter, they held on. Maybe because they weren't built to think for themselves. Maybe because they didn't rely on satellites or towers that were already failing under the pressure of whatever hit us. When morning came, if you can call it morning when the sun barely showed, I walked outside and saw the mess. Cars pushed into piles, boats smashed against buildings, houses along the shore torn open like cardboard, and the smell, salt, fuel, smoke, rot. The kind of smell that sticks to your skin no matter how many times you wash. People were wandering the streets, some calling out names, others carrying bags of supplies they grabbed from broken stores. No police, no sirens, no ambulances, just confusion. I went back inside and locked myself in. The station sits on a small hill, and the water didn't reach this far. Not yet. I checked the generator. It was still running, but on low fuel. I found some cans in the storage room and topped it off. Every time it sputtered, my heart jumped. I kept thinking if the generator dies, my voice dies with it, and then the silence wins. I can handle darkness. I've lived through storms and outages before. But silence, after what we've seen? That's what scares me the most. Some people came by the station during the first 2 days. They said they walked from the west side of the city because the bridges were unstable and the main roads were flooded. They asked for news, for weather, for anything that could explain why everything felt like it was slipping away. I didn't have answers. All I could do was pass on small things I heard from travelers. One man said Boston was already shut down. Another said the military blocked off parts of the coast and wasn't letting anyone closer than 20 miles. Someone else said the National Guard tried to make rescue runs, but half their vehicles stalled just like ours did. Too much electronic failure. Too much interference. He said the soldiers were scared too, scared of something they didn't understand. By the fourth day, the sky changed color. A dull red haze settled over the horizon, like a permanent sunset. I kept asking anyone who came by if they had seen planes, but no one had. Not one. It was strange. You'd think in a crisis we'd hear jets or helicopters or something, but the skies were empty. That's when I started to think this wasn't just a Maine thing. Maybe not even an East Coast thing. Maybe it was everywhere. The hardest part has been the quiet between broadcasts. When I turn the mic off to save power, I sit alone and the station creaks in the wind. The walls shake sometimes, not from storms, but from the weakened frame settling. I keep thinking the whole place will give out one day, and then I'll be forced to move inland with the rest of the survivors. But for now, this booth is still my anchor, and I need an anchor. Everyone does. People have been asking for help on how to survive, so let me say what I know. Don't stay near the coast. If you're listening from a basement, move higher, not because of another wave, but because the ground itself feels unstable. I don't know how far it's sinking or shifting, but I can feel it. Bring water, not bottled stuff that ran out fast. Use pots, pans, buckets, anything that can collect rain. Boil it, even if it looks clean. If you have older tools, keep them. Manual pumps, wind-up radios, flashlights with cranks. Anything that doesn't need a battery. Batteries drain fast now, faster than before. I don't know why. Maybe whatever hit us messed with the charge. Maybe the air is different. I'm not a scientist. I just know what I've seen. People with skills matter more than ever. If you know how to fix engines, build fires, purify water, mend wounds, your community needs you. Don't wait for help from the government. I'm not saying they don't care. I'm saying they might not be able to reach us. We haven't heard from them in days. And the last time I scanned through the bands, I picked up fragments of a message from far south. Something about moving inland, regrouping, unknown threat, magnetic instability. The signal cracked apart before I caught the rest. There have been small victories. I should talk about those too. Yesterday morning, a group of neighbors fixed an old windmill on a farm outside the city. It wasn't much, just a slow-turning wooden thing that squeaked like crazy, but it powered a small heater long enough for some families to warm up. Kids played in the yard for the first time since this started. Someone found a working tractor from the 70s that didn't rely on electronics, and they used it to pull debris off the road so people could walk through without cutting themselves on broken glass. Things like that matter. Little pockets of life pushing back against everything that's been taken from us. I'm tired. I won't lie about that. My voice cracks sometimes when I talk too long. My hands shake when I set up the mic. I haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time. Every time I close my eyes, I see that first wave rolling in, slow and heavy, like it was reaching for us. But I also see the people trying, fighting, holding on. And that gives me enough strength to keep going. If you're hearing this, stay with me. I'll keep the station running as long as the wind turns that small propeller outside. I'll give updates, warnings, anything I can gather. I'll be here, Even if the world keeps falling apart piece by piece, I'll be here. You're not alone, even if it feels like it. I'll save some power now. I'll come back in a bit with more news if I can get any. Stay warm, stay alert, stay together. Don't go near the water. It's not done moving. I'm back again. The generator gave me a bit of trouble starting up, but it's holding steady for now. The wind outside picked up overnight, which is a good thing for the small propeller, but not great for the building. Every gust makes the frame groan. Sometimes it feels like the station is breathing, pulling in and pushing out, trying to steady itself on the trembling hill. It makes it hard to stay calm. Even now, while I'm talking, it feels like the floor shifts a little under the chair legs. Maybe it's in my head. Maybe not. Hard to know what's real when the world keeps changing shape. I stepped outside earlier to check the wires. The air was sharp and the cold stung my cheeks. I could hear the water hitting the distant streets like a slow pulse. The tide is still higher than it used to be. No one knows if it will ever go back down. The harbor looks wider each day, like the sea is trying to claim the land inch by inch. I saw a house leaning to one side, its porch halfway torn away. It must have slipped in the night. No one came out to look at it. Maybe no one lives there anymore. The silence around the broken buildings feels heavier than noise. Noise tells you there's life. Silence tells you there used to be. While I was outside, I saw a group of people walking up the hill. They were wrapped in blankets and carrying whatever they could salvage. They didn't come to the station. They didn't even look this way. They just kept moving inland, toward the tree line, past the cracked roads and fallen power poles. One of them, an older man with a long gray scarf, glanced over his shoulder and gave me a nod. Not a wave, not a smile, just a nod, like he was saying he understood why I stayed and didn't blame me for it. I don't know where they're going. I didn't ask. Asking people questions these days feels like asking to open a wound. Some people think Portland will empty out soon, that the whole coast will. Travelers say the same thing is happening in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Towns pulling back from the shore, abandoning anything within a mile of the water. The ground keeps shifting under the flooded areas, and someone told me the cracks that opened near the old piers are getting wider. They said they looked like long black mouths. I don't know if that's true or if fear is just shaping the way we describe things, but I can picture it. The sea isn't rising fast, not the way we expected. It's more like the land is giving up in slow, quiet pieces. I've been thinking about what Martin said before he disappeared. He came to the station once more after that first shock. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept for days. He kept saying something was wrong with the magnetic field near the coast, something he'd never seen before in his years of working with sensors. He said the readings made no sense. He talked about the ground losing stability, about pressure under the seabed, about something pushing or pulling. He couldn't tell which. He left to check the lighthouse station north of here, but he never came back. I try not to think about what might have happened to him, but every time I look at the water, that low red haze over the horizon makes me wonder if he saw something he wasn't ready for. Inside the station, things aren't much better. The food I had stored is running low. I'm not starving, not yet, but the cans are fewer each day. I'm trying to stretch everything out. A small amount of beans in the morning, a bit of crackers or whatever, hasn't gone stale in the evening. Water is more of a worry. The tap hasn't worked in days. The pipes probably froze or cracked when the temperature dropped. I've been collecting water from melted frost on the windowsills and boiling it. Doesn't taste great, but it keeps me going. People brought me extra supplies when they passed by earlier this week, but I know they need them too. I don't want to depend on others more than I have to. Everyone has enough weight to carry right now. The hardest thing about staying here isn't the cold or hunger. It's the waiting. Waiting for the next shift in the land. Waiting for the next wave. Waiting for the next strange sound. I try to keep my mind steady, but there are moments when I feel fear rise through me like a fever. Moments when the station shakes, and I wonder if this is it. If the whole hill will give way and drag the building down into the water. But then, the wind shifts, or the ground steadies, and I breathe again. That's when I remember why I'm still here. Someone has to talk. Someone has to say the things people are afraid to say out loud. Someone has to remind them they're not alone in this. As long as this old frequency keeps pushing my voice out into the air, I'll use it. People who manage to keep small radios tell me they listen to me during the nights when they can't sleep. They say the nights are the hardest. They say it feels like the dark keeps getting heavier, like the stars themselves are fading. Someone told me the moon looked warped last night, stretched like a soft shape behind thin clouds. I didn't see it myself, but nothing feels impossible now. If the land can move, if the sea can swallow whole streets without warning, then the sky can change too. Some people talk about hearing strange sounds at night, not the hum from before, but something softer. A low tone rolling through the fog. Some say it's the wind over the broken docks. Others say it's the water pushing through underground spaces. I don't know what it is, but I do know that when the world breaks, it makes new sounds. Sounds we don't recognize yet. Sounds we learn to fear before we understand them. I've been asked what people should do next. I don't have real answers, but I can tell you what's worked so far. Move inland, even a little. Don't trust the ground near the coast. Don't stay in houses with cracked walls or leaning roofs. Look for small hills or sturdy buildings that haven't shifted. If you're traveling, stay in groups. 3 is better than 1. 5 is better than 3. People alone are more likely to freeze or panic or get stuck somewhere without help. If you find food, share it. I've seen how sharing changes the mood, how it turns fear into something like hope for a few minutes. If you find clean water, guard it, but don't hoard it. There's no future if we survive alone and lose everyone else. I try to give calm advice, but I know the stress is getting to me. Some nights I sit here in the dark and talk out loud even when the mic is off, just because I need to hear a voice. I tell myself what I see, what I feel, what I remember. It steadies me. It reminds me that I still have a place in this world, even if the world keeps slipping. Yesterday I found an old photo wedged behind the equipment shelf. It showed the station crew standing outside during the summer. Everyone smiling, the sun bright behind them. The sea in the background, calm and blue. I don't know why seeing that picture hit me so hard. Maybe because it feels like a message from another life. Maybe because none of those people are here now. They didn't die, not that I know of. They just left before the roads got worse. They went inland to stay with family or search for safer ground. They told me to come. They said the station wasn't worth staying for, but I stayed anyway. I kept thinking this would blow over, that someone would fix the grid, that the city would come back. Now it feels strange to remember that kind of faith. This morning I tried scanning the bands again. Most of them were empty. A few had long blank stretches, like someone had once spoken, but the message faded into noise. One frequency had a faint pattern, almost like tapping. slow and steady. It didn't sound like Morse code, but I'm no expert. It didn't sound random either. I kept listening for 10 minutes, but it didn't change. Just that soft tap. Maybe it was interference. Maybe it was a damaged transmitter somewhere inland catching its breath. Or maybe someone out there is still trying to reach whoever's left. I'll check again later. A strange thing happened around noon. The air warmed fast, like someone opened a hidden oven door. The frost on the windows melted in minutes. The generator made a grinding noise, then sped up for a few seconds, like the warmth made it stronger. Then it slowed again. I opened the back door, and the wind felt warm on my face, almost like summer. But the sky didn't match it. The red haze was thicker than before. It spread across half the horizon, leaving the upper sky a dull gray. It didn't feel natural. Warmth without sunlight shouldn't happen. I wonder if something deep under the earth is heating up, or if whatever hit our coast changed the air itself. I keep thinking about what Martin said about pressure shifting under the seabed. Maybe the land isn't falling. Maybe something is rising beneath us. I'm tired, but I need to keep going. People are depending on this station, on this voice. I can't let the generator fail. I'll gather more wood later so I can stay warm without using too much fuel. The desk is freezing again and my hands are starting to go numb, but the mic feels warm from my breath. It helps. I don't know how far this signal reaches now. Maybe just across the city. Maybe farther if the wind carries it right. But if you're listening, hold on. Even if everything looks broken, even if the sea keeps pushing in, even if the land feels like it might split, keep moving inland. Help each other. Build whatever you can. Use old tools. Use common sense. The world we knew is gone for now, maybe for good, but that doesn't mean we have to go with it. I'll keep talking, as long as I can. Back soon. I'm here again. The wind finally settled a bit, and the generator has a softer rhythm now, almost like it's breathing with me. I'm trying not to think about how close I came to losing the signal earlier. The power dipped twice, and for a moment the lights in the booth flickered so fast I thought the whole room was going to shut down. I sat here with my hand on the mic, waiting to see if everything would go dark. When the lights steadied, I felt this strange wave of relief wash over me, like someone reached out and pulled me back from the edge. It's strange how attached I've become to the hum of this equipment. It's the closest thing to company most days. A few hours ago, I walked outside again to check the antenna. The air had that same warm bite from yesterday, like the wrong season slipped through a crack in the sky. When I looked toward the harbor, I noticed the water wasn't moving the way it usually does. It wasn't calm. It wasn't rough. It was still in long stretches, then shaking in others, almost like something underneath was pushing upward in slow, uneven breaths. I stood there for a long time, watching the ripples form and fade, and it made my stomach twist. I've lived here most of my life. I know how the sea should act. This isn't it. This is something new, something we weren't built to understand. There's a path leading down toward the old market area. It used to be a busy place, full of music and the smell of food stands and loud conversations. Today, it's just debris and pools of water mixed with broken boards. I didn't go all the way down, but I could see the remains of a few shops leaning against each other like tired old friends trying to stay upright. I saw a jacket stuck on the corner of a fence, flapping weakly. No one has been down there in days. Maybe someone will go through and gather what's left. But right now the ground around that area looks wrong, like it could sink at any moment. I thought about going farther inland today, just to see what's happening beyond the hill. But I couldn't make myself leave the station. It's not fear of being out there. It's fear of not being here if someone needs me. I know it sounds strange. Most people would choose safety or warmth or company. But I feel like if I leave, something important will slip away. This station is the last voice some people may hear, and I don't want that voice to disappear because I got tired or lonely. Maybe one day I'll have to go inland like everyone else, but not today. Not while this frequency is still alive. Earlier, someone left a note by the door. I found it taped to the frame when I stepped out. The paper was damp, but I could still read the handwriting. It said they were heading north and that they hoped I would come with them one day. They didn't sign their name. I recognized the handwriting, though. It belonged to a woman named Caroline who came by the station 3 days ago. She had a soft voice and kept adjusting her coat like she wasn't used to the cold. She asked me about her brother, who lived near the waterfront. I told her the truth, that I hadn't seen him or heard anything from that area. She cried quietly for a while, then thanked me for talking. When she left, she said something that stuck with me. She said, "People need someone who isn't running." I didn't think about it much then, but now that she's gone, those words sit heavy in my chest. The note also mentioned something I hadn't heard yet. She wrote about seeing a strange glow in the water 2 nights ago, near the broken pier. She said it looked like pale green light moving under the surface, slow and wide like a drifting shape. She didn't know what it was. She didn't try to get close. She said she ran back uphill because something about it felt wrong. I don't know what to make of it. Maybe it was chemical runoff mixing with the tide. Maybe it was light from somewhere reflecting off debris. Or maybe there's something happening underwater that we still don't understand. Either way, if anyone hears this, stay away from the water at night, even if it looks calm, especially if it looks calm. I've been trying to make a list of things people should focus on for the next few days. The weather keeps shifting, and the cold comes back stronger each time. If you're staying in places without working heat, gather blankets, thick coats, anything that keeps the wind out. If you find places with wood stoves, hold on to them. Even broken ones can be repaired with enough patience. There was an older man near the west side who fixed 3 stoves using spare parts from old cabins. He didn't ask for anything in return, but people brought him food and warm clothes anyway. That kind of trade keeps everyone going. Skills matter more than money now, and kindness matters more than anything. I don't know if anyone still has working flashlights, but if you do, save the batteries. Use candles or small fires instead. Some people learned how to make simple lamps using jars, bits of cloth, and cooking oil. They don't shine brightly, but they're enough to see by. If you have mirrors or old metal sheets, you can use them to reflect and spread the light in a room. Someone told me they set up a system like that in an abandoned classroom, turning 2 small flames into enough light for 20 people. It's strange how resourceful we get when we don't have a choice. Food is more complicated. Stores were cleared out fast, and anything that wasn't taken is now spoiled or floating in dirty water. But inland, there are still farms that didn't flood. Some people have started going house to house, gathering canned goods or dry food that's still safe. They leave notes saying what they took and why. It's a way of keeping trust alive. Trust is fragile now. We need to protect it. Someone who came by yesterday told me the rivers north of here are flowing faster than normal. They said the current looks stronger, like the water is being pulled from somewhere deep. It's not flooding yet, but the color of the water changed. It's darker, almost like ink. That worries me. Rivers shouldn't change color unless something upstream is breaking down. Maybe landslides, maybe soil erosion, maybe something else. If you live near a river, move back at least a few 100 feet. Even if it looks calm now, you never know when the land might shift again. The nights have been colder. I've been sleeping with my coat on, curled up near the small heater I made from pieces of metal and a thick candle. It doesn't warm the room much, but it keeps the air from freezing. I wake up often, sometimes because the wind hits the walls, sometimes because the ground makes that strange groaning noise. It's like the earth is stretching. I don't know how else to describe it. Sometimes it's faint, barely a whisper. Other times it feels like it's right under my feet. When that happens, I sit up and hold my breath, waiting to see if it gets worse. So far it hasn't. But I don't know how long that luck will last. I've started writing things down in a small notebook. Not news, not updates, just thoughts. It helps me stay steady. I write about what I see, what I feel, what memories keep circling back. Last night, I wrote about my mother taking me to the beach when I was young. I remembered how she used to stand by the shore with her arms crossed, laughing whenever the waves chased me back. She used to say the sea had moods just like people. Calm days, rough days, curious days. I wonder what she would say about this. I wonder if she'd still believe the sea has moods, or if she'd say this is something else entirely. I tried the bands again earlier. I moved the dial slowly, hoping for any sign of someone out there. Most were empty. Some had faint static. One had a burst of broken words, but they were too twisted to understand. I thought I heard the word retreat, but it could have been anything. The signal faded before I could make sense of it. I'll try again later. I don't want to lose hope that someone, somewhere, is trying to reach us. The red haze over the horizon is wider today. Almost half the sky is tinted now. It doesn't glow. It just hangs there like a heavy curtain. The light feels weaker because of it. Shadows look softer, but not in a comforting way. More like everything is dulling. I noticed birds acting strange, too. A few gulls were circling inland, not toward the water. Birds know more about changes in the world than we do. If they're avoiding the coast, that tells me something isn't right. I'm going to stay on air for as long as the generator lets me. If anyone is near higher ground, stay there. If you have tools, keep them dry. If you have people, keep them close. Try not to panic. Panic makes the ground feel even more unstable. Breathe, rest when you can, and move with purpose. Life hasn't ended. It's just changed. And we're still here, even if everything else feels like it's slipping away. The wind outside has changed direction, and now it feels colder than it did earlier. The warmth from the last 2 days is completely gone, almost like it never happened at all. The walls feel colder when I touch them, and the air in the booth has that sharp bite that makes you hold your breath for a second before talking. I've been rubbing my hands together to keep them warm enough to move the knobs on the transmitter. The generator is still holding, but it's been giving off this faint, rattling sound that I've never heard before. I keep hoping it's just the cold metal shrinking and not something breaking inside, because if it stops, I don't know how long I'll be able to keep talking to anyone. I stepped outside earlier, just long enough to check the cables again. The hill looks different today. The ground feels softer under the thin layer of frozen dirt, like there's something hollow below it. I walked toward the edge where you can see the city, and some parts look darker than yesterday. A whole block near the waterfront has sunk enough that you can't see the rooftops anymore. It's strange how fast things disappear now. One day, a street is there, broken but standing, and the next, it's gone, swallowed by water or pulled under by shifting land. It makes you realize how fragile solid ground really is. People used to talk about bedrock like it was permanent. Nothing feels permanent anymore. The sky had a strange look this morning. The red haze that's been hanging over the horizon has climbed higher. It's touching the clouds now, turning them a dull rust color. It makes the daylight weaker, softer, almost sickly. When I looked up, it felt like I was staring through tinted glass. A few people who passed the station earlier said they felt dizzy walking under it, like their balance was off. Maybe it's in their heads. Maybe not. I've felt moments where the air seems heavier, like I have to take deeper breaths just to steady myself. Maybe that's just what fear does. Or maybe the air itself is changing as the land keeps shifting under us. I haven't heard from anyone in the government for days. Not a single emergency alert. Not even a broken signal. The last one I caught was barely a whisper. I keep thinking someone, somewhere, must be trying to reach out. But as the days go on, I'm starting to think maybe the whole system collapsed far beyond our coast. Maybe the places we thought would stand strong were hit the hardest. If the grid went down all at once, if the magnetic field around the coast is unstable, maybe the satellites are down too. If that's true, then we might be on our own for a long time. Earlier today, a man named Lewis stopped by. He's one of the few people who still travels through this area. He had a thick coat covered in dust and dried mud, and he looked tired, like he'd been walking for days. He didn't come into the booth, but he talked to me through the open door while I was checking the antenna cables. He said the ground north of here is cracking. Long, thin splits in the fields that make the dirt look like broken glass. He said some cracks make this deep echoing sound when you stand near them, like there's a big empty space below. He thinks it's the ground settling, but he said he's never seen anything like it in his life. He also said he heard distant booms in the middle of the night, coming from the coastline, like something heavy was falling or shifting in the water. He didn't go looking for the source. He said he didn't want to see it. Lewis also mentioned something else. Something that's been sitting in the back of my mind since he left. He said he saw strange lights out in the ocean, far past the broken pier. Not like the green glow Caroline described. These were brighter, like white flashes moving below the surface, slow and steady. He said it reminded him of lightning, but underwater. I don't know what to think about it. Maybe its pressure changes. Maybe the seabed is cracking open. Maybe something is rising. Every possibility feels worse than the last. The more people tell me, the more I realize how much we didn't understand about the world beneath us. We built homes, docks, roads, all while pretending the earth was still and the sea stayed in its place. Now everything is shifting and pushing and grinding, like the whole planet is trying to rearrange itself. And we're caught on the edge of it, waiting for the next piece to break. Inside the station, I can hear the small wind propeller spinning harder than usual. The steady turning sound is comforting in a strange way. It means the batteries are getting charged. It means the transmitter has a little more breath in it. But it also means another storm might be coming. The sky looked thick with clouds to the west. Dark ones, heavy ones. If a storm hits while the land is already unstable, I don't know what's going to happen. Flooding could push farther inland. Buildings could collapse if the ground shifts again. I keep telling myself not to think too far ahead. but it's hard when every hour feels like a countdown. Some people are settling into small groups now. They move together from building to building, looking for food, blankets, tools. I watched a group of 6 making their way up the hill earlier with backpacks and a wagon. They stopped halfway up and shared a piece of bread, passing it around like it was something precious. It made my chest tighten a little. It reminded me of the way people used to sit in the parks during warm days, sharing snacks and talking about nothing important. Now every bite feels like a choice. Every step feels like survival. I should talk more about what people can do right now. Water is still the biggest issue. Some people are melting ice or collecting rain. If you're inland, stay away from streams that look darker than usual. Something is happening to the soil, and the runoff might not be safe. Stick to boiling any water you collect. If you have charcoal or sand, you can make a simple filter by layering them in a cloth or bottle. It won't make the water perfect, but it can help remove some of the dirt before boiling. Food won't last if people don't ration it. Small portions, spread throughout the day. Keep a watch on anyone who looks too weak. People can lose hope fast when they lose strength, and hope is just as important as food right now. Sleep when you can, even if it's just for a few minutes. Exhaustion makes everything feel worse, and it makes mistakes more likely. I've been thinking about the stations inland. If any of them are still running, they might know more than we do. But the further I turn the dial, the quieter it gets. I don't know if the towers are down or if the signals can't get through whatever is happening to the atmosphere. The static feels thicker, almost heavy. Some nights it sounds like it has a pulse, like there's a heartbeat buried under the noise. I know that sounds strange, but everything sounds strange now. I've been trying to stay calm, but there are moments when the fear hits hard. Moments when I hear the earth groan and the walls creak, and I feel like I'm balancing on something that's about to break. Last night, I woke up, and I could swear the whole station tilted for a second. Just a small tilt, like being on a boat when a wave shifts. I sat up, holding onto the edge of the desk, waiting to see if it would tilt again. It didn't, but I couldn't sleep after that. I stayed awake listening to the generator hum, reminding myself that as long as I could hear it, I wasn't alone. People keep asking why I'm still here when so many have left. I don't have a clear answer. Maybe it's because leaving feels wrong. Maybe it's because I'm afraid of what's out there. Or maybe it's because this booth, with its cold walls and flickering lights, is the only place that still feels like it has purpose. Talking into this microphone makes me feel connected to someone, even if I can't see them. It makes me feel like there's still a thread tying us together, and I don't want that thread to break. The sun is almost gone now, though you can barely tell with the haze. The shadows look warped, stretched in strange ways on the ground. The city looks like a forgotten place, with broken buildings standing like ribs of something that once lived. I can hear faint cracks in the distance, like ice splitting on a frozen lake. But this isn't ice. It's land. It's earth. It's the ground shifting under our feet. I'll stay on as long as I can. I'll keep sharing what I know, what I see, what people tell me. Don't lose your calm. Don't walk alone. Stick together. If you feel the ground trembling, move away from tall buildings. If you see the water rising even a little, get to higher ground fast. Don't ignore the signs. The world is changing faster than any of us can understand, and we need to move with it if we want to stay alive. I'll be back soon. Don't give up. The generator almost didn't start this time. I pulled the cord 3 times and nothing happened. And for a moment, I thought that was it, that the voice of this place was about to go silent for good. On the 4th try, it caught, just barely, coughing like an old man waking up in the cold. I stood there with my hands shaking, waiting to see if it would keep running. When it finally settled into its usual uneven hum, I felt my knees loosen like they were about to give out. Funny how something as small as a spark can feel like hope. The temperature dropped hard overnight. I woke up with my breath fogging in front of me, even inside the booth. The small heater I made barely did anything. My hands were stiff and numb when I tried to pick up the notebook. The windows were covered in frost that looked like thin white branches, stretching in strange spiderweb shapes across the glass. I scraped a small circle through it with a coin just to see outside, and the world looked even worse through that little opening than it does through the full window. Something about the frost frame made everything look smaller, like I was looking at a picture of a dying place instead of the place itself. The city is changing shape again. I can see the places where the land has sunk since yesterday. There's a building near the edge of the hill that's leaning forward at an angle it didn't have before. If the ground under it keeps shifting, it's going to slide. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow. There's no way to tell anymore. Everything is happening without warning. One moment something is there. The next it's bent or broken or underwater. I walked a little farther than usual earlier, just to feel what the ground was doing. There are small cracks now leading away from the station, thin lines like scratches running along the dirt. When I stepped near one, a faint sound came up from underneath, like a distant creek flowing through the earth. I stepped back fast. I don't know what's under us anymore. I saw a woman sitting on a curb halfway down the hill. She had her arms wrapped around her knees and her head tucked down like she was trying to disappear into her coat. I walked toward her, but when she heard my footsteps, she looked up and her eyes were wide and frightened, like a trapped animal. She didn't say anything. I didn't want to scare her, so I stopped a few feet away and asked if she needed help. She didn't answer that either. She just pointed toward the water with a shaking hand. I looked where she pointed, and the shoreline was farther inland than it was yesterday. The sea didn't rise in a big wave. It just crept forward in silence, swallowing pieces of the street. I wanted to tell her she needed to move, that she couldn't stay there, but she got up before I could speak again. She ran up the hill without looking back. I don't know where she went. It's getting harder to keep track of time. The sun barely shows through the haze, and when it does, it looks more like a weak light bulb than a real sun. The sky has taken on this strange tinted color, not just red now, but something like rust mixed with ash. At night, the darkness feels thicker, like it presses against the windows instead of hanging above everything. I keep checking the clock on the wall even though I know it's wrong. It froze days ago, but I still look at it out of habit, hoping that one day it might start again, even though I know it won't. Earlier, someone left food outside the door, a small bundle wrapped in cloth. When I opened it, there were 2 apples and a piece of bread. The apples were bruised, but still good. The bread was rough and stale, but not moldy. I stood there holding the bundle and felt this swell in my chest, this ache that wasn't sadness or relief, but something in between. Someone out there is still thinking about others. Someone walked up this cold hill and left this without knocking, without wanting thanks. They just wanted me to keep going. I put 1 apple aside for later and ate the other slowly while reading through my notes. It was the sweetest thing I've tasted in days. I keep thinking about the people who passed by the station last week, The ones with the wagon and the little bits of food they shared. I wonder where they are now. I wonder if they found shelter inland, or if the shifting ground trapped them somewhere. I think about Caroline heading north, about the note she left taped to the door. I wonder if she found her brother, or if she kept walking until she couldn't anymore. Every person who leaves this place becomes a story I only get to finish in my head. It's hard not knowing. The coast has been giving off a low vibration all afternoon. Not loud enough to shake anything, just enough to make your teeth feel strange when you stand still. I don't know what causes it. Maybe the seabed is cracking. Maybe the land is adjusting. Maybe something deeper than both is moving. When the vibration gets stronger, the generator sputters, like the air around it thickens for a second. It settles after a while, but every time it happens, I hold my breath. I keep finding myself thinking back to things I haven't thought about in years. Old routines, old places. My father used to take me to a small wharf near the lighthouse when I was a kid. We'd sit there with sandwiches and watch the boats come in. The water always seemed predictable back then. It rose and fell with the tide like a living clock. Even storms felt familiar, like they followed rules we understood. Now nothing follows rules anymore. The water doesn't wait for the moon. It comes when it wants. It leaves when it wants. And the land under us feels as unsettled as the sea. I've been writing more in my notebook lately, not because I think anyone will read it someday, but because it keeps my mind steady. I write down what people tell me. I write down what I see. I write down the sounds the earth makes at night when everything else is quiet. Last night I heard something like a long, low crack far out in the water. Not thunder. More like ice breaking on a frozen lake, except deeper. Heavier. I remember freezing in place, waiting for something to follow. But nothing did. The silence afterward felt even heavier than the sound. Some people have started using old diesel cars again. Not many, but a few. Ones without electronics inside. They run rough and loud, belching smoke, but they move. Movement feels like freedom now. I saw a group using one of those cars to haul supplies from a broken store inland. They waved when they passed the station, and for a moment it felt almost like life used to be. People working together, doing something practical, something good. It reminded me that even when the world is tearing at the seams, people can still build small pieces of it back up. I think what keeps people alive right now is not food or shelter, though those things matter. It's the small signs that we still care about each other. The note left at the door, the wagon group sharing bread, the people repairing old tools and handing them out. In disasters, people either break or bend, and the ones who bend find new shapes to survive in. I hope more people bend. The sky is dimming again. I should conserve power soon. But before I go, I want to remind anyone listening to trust the small things. If the ground feels wrong under your feet, move. If the water looks different, don't approach it. If the air feels heavy in your lungs, rest indoors until it settles. Listen to your instincts. They kept people alive long before electricity did. And stay close to others when you can. Even quiet company helps. Even shared silence is better than being alone too long. I'll be back after the generator cools down. If the wind holds, the batteries should give me enough power for another broadcast tonight. Until then, hold on. The ground may be shifting, but we're still here. Every sound it makes now feels like a warning. The shaking comes and goes, and each time the metal frame rattles, I think about how thin the line is between a working machine and a dead one. I'm doing what I can to keep it going, but the fuel is low, and the cold is making everything slower, including me. My breath fogs in front of the mic, and I keep rubbing my hands together because the cold settles deep into the bones when you sit still too long. I looked out the window a few minutes ago, and there's something different about the slope below the station. The cracks that were small yesterday are longer today. They branch out like dark veins through the frozen dirt, connecting in strange patterns. Some look new, others look wider, and for the first time I could see thin wisps of vapor slipping out of one. Not smoke, not steam, something colder. It drifted up in a slow, soft line and disappeared before the wind touched it. I stood there staring at it for too long, trying to figure out if it meant anything, if it was some sign of the earth shifting again under our feet, or just the ground breathing out whatever it's been holding in all this time. The sky didn't brighten much today. The red haze is thicker. It stretches across the whole eastern edge, and now it's climbing over the west as well, like two dirty blankets trying to meet in the middle. When the light hits it, the whole world takes on this dull copper tone. It makes everything look old and tired, like the land itself is worn down from holding back whatever is pushing from below. I can't shake the feeling that something deep inside the earth is moving, slow, steady, patient. Something that doesn't care about the lines we drew on maps or the buildings we built on soft ground. A few hours ago, I heard heavy footsteps outside, slow and dragging, and when I opened the door, a man was standing there leaning on a broken walking stick. He didn't talk at first. He just stared past me toward the horizon like he'd been walking a long time and forgot why he stopped. His face was wind-burned and rough, and he looked like he hadn't eaten in days. When he finally spoke, his voice was cracked and dry. He said the river north of here split open during the night. Not flooded, split. He said the water dropped fast on one side, leaving the riverbed exposed in long, muddy stretches, while the other side swelled like something underneath it pushed the ground upward. He said he saw fish flopping in the mud, half frozen, and he tried to gather a few, but the ground shook before he got close. When he said that, his hands trembled just a little, like he was remembering the way the earth moved. He asked if he could rest here. I told him he could sit on the steps as long as he needed. I went back inside to find something for him to eat, but by the time I returned, he was already gone. The hill is steep, and I'm not sure where he went or how he moved so fast. A few footprints in the frost pointed toward the inland trail, and that was it. Another person crossing through. Another story I only get a small piece of. I've been thinking a lot about food. The little bundle someone left yesterday helped more than I want to admit. I saved the bread for later, but I ate the last piece tonight because I needed the strength. I don't like feeling weak when I talk. It makes the fear creep in faster. Weakness makes the world seem louder, but even with food, everything is getting harder. My hands shake when I write. My legs feel heavier every time I climb the stairs. I've been rationing water, but the small supply I have is almost gone. I'll try to collect more frost tomorrow, but the skies haven't given us much moisture. Just cold air and drifting haze. As strange as it sounds, the city is quieter than ever. No distant voices, no footsteps, no metal clanking as people move debris or try to repair something. It feels like everyone is pulling farther inland day by day. The emptiness sits heavy on the streets, like an echo stretched too thin. When I stand outside, I can hear things I never noticed before. The soft crack of ice forming on puddles, the faint drip of water sinking into cracks in the ground, the way the wind hits the broken windows of old buildings and slips through them like breath. But there's something else too. Last night, I heard a low rumbling far out toward the water. Not thunder. It didn't roll across the sky. It rose from the direction of the sea and stayed at one level, long and steady, almost like the sound of a train passing through a tunnel. Except there are no trains running anymore. And even if there were, nothing deep enough exists to make a sound like that. I listened to it until it faded, and when it finally stopped, I realized I had my hands pressed against the desk so hard my fingers hurt. People used to say the ocean was alive, that it moved with its own rhythm and breathed with the world. Maybe they were right. Maybe the earth is shifting, and the sea is trying to settle into whatever new shape the world is forcing on it. Every day feels like watching something take form underneath everything we know, something we weren't meant to see. The small wind propeller is spinning faster now. That usually means a storm is coming. I checked the sky again a few minutes ago, and the clouds to the west are piled up thick and dark. Heavy storm clouds, but they move slow, almost too slow, like the air can barely push them. If the storm hits hard, the unstable ground might not hold. Floods could push deeper into the city. Mud from the cracked earth might slide. I don't know how much of this hill will stay standing if the land keeps shifting the way it has been. I know I should prepare, but preparing feels strange when everything changes in ways you can't predict. I'm doing what I can, saving power, gathering bits of food, keeping the generator alive, writing down the things I see so they don't slip away. But the truth is, I'm tired. Not just in my body, in my thoughts, in the part of me that keeps hoping for a sign that things will settle. I talk because I need to talk, because silence feels worse than fear, because someone out there might need to hear another human voice and remember they're still part of something. But when the night gets quiet and the cold presses in, even I start to wonder how long any of this will last. Still, I'm not leaving. Not yet. As long as this generator works, as long as the wind keeps turning the propeller, as long as my voice can reach someone, I'll stay here. I'll talk through the fear. I'll talk through the shaking. I'll talk through whatever the earth throws at us next. If you're listening, keep going. Hold on to anyone near you. Don't let the cold pull you into silence. Move inland if you can. Stay off unstable ground. Listen to the earth as much as you listen to the sky. And if the world grows darker, match it with your own stubbornness. We're still here. That has to count for something. I wasn't sure I'd make another broadcast tonight. The generator nearly died when I tried to start it. The cord slipped from my hand twice because my fingers were too cold to grip it right. I kept pulling anyway, because stopping didn't feel like an option. On the 5th try, it caught, and when that thin, uneven hum started up again, I felt something inside me settle for the first time all day. It's strange how a failing machine can feel like a heartbeat when everything else has gone quiet. The storm that was building earlier finally came in. It didn't arrive with thunder or bright flashes, just a heavy push of wind that bent the trees near the edge of the hill and shook the station hard enough to rattle the desk. Snow drifted sideways across the window, thin at first, then thicker, like the sky was brushing long strokes of white across the dying city. The snow isn't soft like normal. It has pieces of dust in it, tiny flecks that make the flakes look gray when they hit the glass. The ground outside is coated in a dull layer that looks more like ash than winter, and the cracks in the earth have filled with it, making them even darker. I stepped outside earlier, just long enough to feel the air and see how bad the storm was getting. It was colder than anything I've felt in weeks. The kind of cold that bites into your teeth when you breathe in too fast. The kind that makes you feel small. I stood near the door and looked out over the hill, and the city below was almost gone beneath the haze and drifting snow. Just the shapes of buildings, some leaning, some half-sunken. The water had pushed even farther into the streets. I could see it shining under the faint light, slow and dark and patient. Something strange happened while I was out there. I heard a deep, slow thud from somewhere underground. Not loud, but powerful enough to travel through the soles of my boots and into my legs. When it faded, the wind seemed to pause for a second, like the whole world took a single breath and held it. Then the gusts began again, harder this time. I backed inside and shut the door fast. I'm not sure what that sound was. Maybe the land shifting again. Maybe something breaking deep beneath the surface. Or maybe the earth adjusting to whatever the sea has been pushing against it. I've been thinking a lot about everything you've heard from me these past days. The warnings, the updates, the things I've seen, the stories people have told me as they passed by this lonely hill. All of it has been pieces of a world breaking apart, but also pieces of people trying to hold on. Even in the worst moments, there's been someone helping someone else, someone sharing food, someone leaving a note, someone fixing something old so it can keep running just a little longer. It reminds me that the world isn't only made of land and water. It's made of the ways we hold on to each other when things fall apart. If you're listening right now, I want you to take a moment and breathe. Slow, deep. Feel whatever ground you're on, even if it's cold or shaking or unfamiliar. You're still here. That matters more than anything the earth or the sea can try to take from you. You're still here, and that means there's still a chance to move forward, even if it's only one small step at a time. That's all survival has ever been, small steps in the dark. If you're with others, check on them. Make sure they're warm. Make sure they've eaten something, even a little. Remind them to rest. People forget how much strength comes from rest, especially when the world keeps pushing and pulling and shaking around them. If you're alone, don't let the silence convince you that you're forgotten. Someone out there is fighting the same fight you are. Someone is listening right now, just like you. The storm is getting stronger. The wind is pushing against the walls in long, heavy bursts. I can feel the vibration through the floor. I don't know how long the generator will last tonight. Maybe a few more minutes. Maybe longer if the wind keeps the propeller turning steady. But before anything cuts out, there's something I want to say clearly. Something that matters more than warnings or updates or the shifting ground. You're still here. And being here means you still have a future to build. The old systems failed. The lights went out. The world we knew cracked and flooded and changed. But people are learning again. How to make fire, how to clean water, how to repair old tools, how to look after each other. These small things are the start of whatever comes next. Don't lose them. Don't lose yourself. If tomorrow brings more shaking, move inland. If the water rises, climb. If the sky darkens, stay close to warmth. And if your hope falters, remember that even now, even in all of this, you are alive. That's enough to start again. I'll stay here as long as this station stands, as long as my voice can reach anyone, as long as the wind gives me the power to keep talking. I don't know what the world will look like tomorrow, or the day after, or in a month. But I believe we'll find a way forward. We always have. I'll check the generator again soon. If it holds, I'll return. If it doesn't, then know that I stayed here with you until the last moment I could. Take care of each other. Hold on. Move steady. And remember, you are not alone. This is Nicholas Grant on 103.7 FM. Still here, still speaking, still hoping. I'll be back if the world lets me.